Hello, and welcome to my home. Like many of you, this has now become my new normal as the effects of the pandemic continue to shape the way in which we work. And if I'm honest, I love it. As a single parent, I get to see more of my son. I get to enjoy more of my home. I swap long, boring commutes with walks along the beach and replace coffee shop sandwiches with delicious home cooked meals. Thanks to this new era of remote everything, I can remain just as productive but reclaim lost hours and reduce my carbon footprint. And I'm not alone. This paradigm shift in productivity has accelerated the adoption of digital transformation. We've seen years worth of change in just a few short months as customers discover new collaboration habits that are set to persist well beyond this current crisis. But this does raise concerns about consistency, privacy, and security. You see, companies will have a vested interest to ensure that their employees get a secure desktop experience from the assortment of connected consumer devices that they'll be using remotely. So, how do we achieve this? In today's session, I'm going to be joined by Microsoft Cloud Solution Architect George Wood and Citrix Specialist Toby Brown as we introduce Windows Virtual Desktop alongside the Citrix Cloud and bring the technology to life with an end-to-end demo. We'll discuss the technology, the value proposition, and why scalable desktop as a service can provide access to environments that are tailored to your user needs. Let's begin. Now, Windows Virtual Desktop is an app virtualization service that runs on the Microsoft Cloud. It empowers companies to run rich multi-session environments upon Windows desktop and server platforms without having to run any additional gateway servers. Companies can publish as many hosts as they need, accommodating diverse workloads from either images hosted in the Azure Marketplace or their own production builds. And thanks to the multi-session capability of both Windows 10 and Windows Server, they can provide the same resources with full persistent desktops or singular applications to end users while significantly reducing both virtual machine and operating system overhead. Once assigned, users can launch either a native client or a HTML5 web client to connect to their published desktops and applications. Windows Virtual Desktop offers many benefits. You have the true portability of remote computing, extended support for legacy operating systems, whilst providing an optimized environment for Office 365 and collaboration through Teams. What's more, because it's cloud-based, you only pay for what's consumed, enjoying cloud scale, agility, and tailored resources that meet current and future demands. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, wait, we've been using Citrix for years. Does this mean that we need to move resources and start again? Well, the short answer is no. Microsoft values our long-standing partnership, and to that, I'd like to introduce Toby, who will briefly discuss some of the tools that Citrix have developed to complement the service.
Thanks, Dan. It's great to be here with you today, albeit virtually. Microsoft and Citrix, probably the longest standing partnership in the industry today. 30 plus years of deep engineering integration and partnering. At Citrix, we design solutions to seamlessly integrate into Microsoft's platform capabilities, extending them to create new solutions and services that add tremendous value for our joint customer base. And with over 500,000 joint customers and hundreds of thousands of users, Microsoft and Citrix together are uniquely positioned and aligned to empower the modern cloud-enabled mobile workforce. The biggest example of the depth of our partnership was announced in 2015 when we chose Azure as our strategic cloud of choice, not only for our customers, but also for ourselves. We run all our workloads, services, storage, all of it in Azure. Our business depends on Azure.
Wow, that's brilliant, Toby. Firstly, thank you. But let me ask you, what are your main reasons for Citrix picking Azure?
Well, Dan, today Microsoft have double the number of data centers that their closest two competitors combined have. And Microsoft has the second largest global network in terms of physical cabling laid. This type of scale and reach is critical to Citrix when aiming to deliver the best possible experience to our customers and their end users, no matter where they are in the world. Microsoft invests over $1 billion annually in security. They have a 24/7 cybersecurity and defense facility manned with leading security experts and data scientists that protect, detect, and respond to threats to Microsoft's cloud. That's not the kind of security investment you can easily spin up yourself. And Azure is powered by 100% renewable energy, which dovetails nicely into the Citrix sustainability message. Now more than ever, our joint customers will be looking at flexible and remote work models underpinned by more scalable and lower emission infrastructure like virtualization and Azure, in tandem with more energy efficient thin clients or mobile devices. Jointly, Microsoft and Citrix solutions can help reduce our customers' carbon footprint. The first service we built and launched out of Azure was the Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop service in and around 2016. This service took everything we know about the delivery of application and desktop workloads from our 30-year history and delivered it all as cloud-based solutions from Azure, allowing us to support not just traditional desktop and application workloads, but now also Windows Virtual Desktop.
Okay, and obviously we worked together with the older technology, many, many times in the past. But let me ask you the question, how does Citrix view Windows Virtual Desktop?
Well, Citrix is a worldwide leader in desktop virtualization, has been officially authorized by Microsoft to bring their rich capabilities to Windows Virtual Desktop. We have been working with Microsoft for a period of around 18 months prior to the launch of Windows Virtual Desktop, which meant we were the only mainstream virtualization vendor to support it at launch. Again, this is all testament to our rich 30-year partnership with Microsoft. But some people have questioned whether there's still a need for Citrix when delivering Windows Virtual Desktop. After all, Windows Virtual Desktop is just a virtual desktop that runs in Azure. So why not trust the same company that so expertly delivers Windows virtual desktops on premises to deliver your virtual desktops from the cloud? This means Microsoft can focus on what they are good at, providing the infrastructure to deliver Windows Virtual Desktop, and Citrix will deliver the richest, most high-fidelity experience possible with the manageability and security wraparound that you've come to expect from us.
Yeah, and I agree. Again, the partnership is long-standing. We've worked together many times before, and there's a great value add there. So I guess my last question is, could you perhaps summarize the main value adds that Citrix will bring to WVD?
Yeah, I'll try. First of all, choice. We let organizations focus on a hybrid strategy that allows them to transition to the cloud at their own pace. Using the Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop service to deliver Windows Virtual Desktop, you can manage Azure app and desktop workloads alongside existing on-premises deployments for maximum flexibility in your cloud adoption. Citrix lowers your time to value by making it faster and easier to manage existing on-premises production apps and desktops alongside these newer Azure deployments. The Citrix tools you already know and love let you centrally manage images, streamline lifecycle management, all whilst keeping a close eye on cost. Next, there's security. With more and more of us working from home, security has never been more important. Citrix has an advanced set of security tools to help protect Windows Virtual Desktop by blocking malicious programs like keyloggers or screen scraping tools, or allowing IT to record the user's session for playback at another time, perhaps for regulatory or training purposes, or just by adding a simple identifiable watermark into the session, IP address, username, in case a creative user tries to capture sensitive information via more old-fashioned methods like a camera phone as such. And finally, experience. We give end users the experience they expect, eliminating barriers to adoption by giving people a flexible, intelligent workspace experience with the Citrix Workspace app and the blazingly fast, high-definition Citrix HDX experience, which lets you run even the most demanding apps like 3D CAD and streaming video on the device of your choice, always reacting and adjusting for ever-changing network conditions like reduced bandwidth, packet loss, high latency. This is our heritage. This is what we are experts at. So all in all, this isn't as much a case of Citrix or Windows Virtual Desktop. It's more Citrix and Windows Virtual Desktop, or as I like to say it, Citrix loves Windows Virtual Desktop.
Thanks, Toby. We love Citrix too. So now we have a better idea of the partnership. Let me welcome George into the conversation, who's going to help me build out our solution. George, do you want to give us a quick introduction?
Thanks, Dan. My name's George, and I'm a cloud solutions architect working for Microsoft, and I sit within the One Commercial Partner team. I focus mainly on infrastructure solutions. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is create ourselves a resource group. Now, a resource group is nothing more than a store for resources that are needed to build our solution, effectively acting as a lifecycle boundary and grouping a project together. I will name the resource group Citrix Demo and ensure that it is hosted in the West Europe region.
Now, I noticed that you're also adding a tag. Tags are nothing more than simple text labels, but I encourage you all to get into the habit of using them as they enable you to organize resources and then filter later for both automation and cost analysis.
Exactly. Now, with that done, we want to go ahead and create ourselves a new directory. This is going to be used with AD Connect and synchronize our accounts.
Now, this is purely for the sake of our demo. We want to keep this as clean as possible, but most people watching will already have a directory in place.
Exactly. We'll call our directory Citrix Demo and place it in the UK region. With that done, I will quickly create a global administrator in the directory. And that's needed so that we can create the synchronization between the domain controller and the Azure Active Directory later in the demo.
Now, I appreciate that you're building this out on a virtual machine, and to an extent, I would imagine that most customers will have a similar setup. But it's worth noting that if we're looking at a pure cloud-only environment, we can achieve the same results with Azure Active Directory domain services. This will still provide you with domain join, group policy objects, and authentication mechanisms, which are of course needed for communication back to the Citrix Cloud.
Absolutely. I'm going to call this Citrix DC, running Windows Server 2019, and keep the suggested VM size of a single CPU with 3.5 gigs of RAM. Although this could be any virtual machine size, including the B series, which operates with burstable capacity. I'll give it a username and password, and I'll also leave the RDP ports open so that we can connect.
Again, that's fine for this demo, but in production, you would want to utilize something like a private VPN connection or just-in-time virtual machine access. Talking of access, Azure will typically suggest a virtual network size, but I personally like to break this up so that we can save a few addresses for later.
Yes, and this is especially useful if you wish to create a VPN gateway for connectivity back to on-premises resources. So in this instance, I'll halve the addresses used and call the subnet production. Now, I'm going to turn off the automation for the virtual machine. We want to keep it running for synchronization, and although I've turned off logging for the demo, we suggest that you keep it switched on in a production environment. Nothing to add under advanced features, and I'll select the tag we created earlier, adding the value DC. With that, I can go ahead and review and create.
Okay, so with our virtual machine created, we're going to go ahead and install the Active Directory role. Now, I'm sure that many of you would have done this before, but for those who haven't, it's just a simple wizard from the Add Roles and Features. We will simply accept the defaults and then reboot the machine. Once rebooted, we can run the configuration wizard, creating a new forest named Citrix Demo, and as before, accepting all defaults, including the NetBIOS name. Once again, we will need to reboot the VM once configuration is completed. So George, what's next?
So the next step is to configure AD Connect. Now, I've already downloaded the package, so I'll just go ahead and launch the configurator. This will integrate our newly created domain with Azure Active Directory and give our users a common identity across resources. From here, we can begin creating our Cloud Connector virtual machine.
Now, this machine is going to be responsible for the communication between the Citrix Cloud and our Azure resources.
Absolutely. This is nothing more than the machine that will enable cloud management without having to set up any complex infrastructure configurations. I'll simply connect it to the same resource group and network as before and call the VM Citrix CC1.
Okay, now it's worth pointing out that we have created a second cloud connector for redundancy, but to be honest, we didn't see any value in you watching this twice, so we've gone ahead and edited it out of the video. Okay, George, so tell us about the virtual machine that you're creating here.
So here we are creating the Windows 10 master image that Citrix will use as a baseline for all the session hosts in the pool. And it's worth noting that this will be a multi-session image, which means that it will allow multiple concurrent sessions.
And this is only for Windows Desktop, right? I mean, you can't run this on premises.
Exactly. It goes against the licensing agreement to run Windows 10 multi-session outside of Azure.
And I'm guessing that because Citrix is acting as nothing more than a front-end management solution, then what we are doing is perfectly fine.
Absolutely. The machines are running on Azure, so nothing to worry about.
Now we need to join the virtual machines into the domain. This is the same process for all three, so we will show you how to do it on this machine and then cut the video to save time. From Control Panel, we will simply go into System Properties and type the DNS name of our domain before entering our administrative credentials and rebooting. So, George, can you walk us through installing the Cloud Connector?
So the first thing we need to do is configure the resource location and provide it with a better name. From here, we can download the software. You can see that the installation process is simple. The software checks to see if you're connected to the domain and the Citrix Cloud service.
And again, because we have two cloud connectors, we will need to perform this action twice. So let me go ahead and pause the video.
And we're back. And as you can see, once done, if we navigate back to the Citrix portal and hit refresh, we have two configured cloud connectors.
So at this point, we are ready to install the Citrix apps and desktop components on our Windows 10 virtual machine. This is the rebranded name for Zen App and Zen Desktop. We're going to use this tool to build out our master image. This will deliver secure virtual apps and desktops to our internet connected devices. Now, to achieve this, we will need to configure a virtual delivery agent. This will then register with the cloud connectors created earlier and provide a brokered connection to our end users. So with that, let me welcome back Toby, who's going to explain our next steps.
Thanks, Dan. So we're now going to create a hosting connection back into Azure using the standard Azure APIs. This will allow us to explore the Azure resources and pick which virtual machines we wish to use as a template and deploy into our machine catalogs.
And just to be transparent, this isn't just for Azure. You have the capacity to connect into all public clouds and other environments such as VMware.
Yes, exactly, we do. All on-premises hypervisors and public clouds. But it's worth noting that since the end of 2019, the capability to connect and deploy to public cloud is only available in Citrix Cloud and not through a traditional on-premises Citrix deployment.
Thanks, Toby. So what do we need to configure once hosting has been established?
So the next thing we will build out is our machine catalog. These are collections of either physical or, in this case, virtual machines that are managed as a single entity. Native Windows Virtual Desktop has a similar concept in host pools. These are again nothing more than a collection of one or more virtual machines within the Windows Virtual Desktop environment. These virtual machines will have similar attributes such as networking, size, and naming conventions. And depending on your subscription, all VM types are supported, including the premier GPU-enabled tiers, which are ideal for graphically intense workloads and machine learning scenarios. What's important, though, is ensuring that the master image is patched and contains all the software that you wish to make available to your end users. And as you mentioned before, Dan, you will need to ensure that the virtual delivery agent is installed so that it can register with the cloud connectors and provide a broker connection to your end users.
And just to echo in what George said earlier, we'll be using Windows 10 multi-session deployments. This means we're not using a server operating system and as such not required to use RDS cows. Instead, we can leverage our Microsoft 365 licenses, which include the Windows Virtual Desktop entitlement.
Exactly. This capability to deploy Windows 10 multi-session into Azure is based on our long-standing partnership with Microsoft and in turn extends your Windows Virtual Desktop deployments by adding the unique Citrix value add.
So the next thing that we need to configure will be the delivery group. This would allow us to effectively specify who has access to what. So Toby, can you walk us through it?
Sure. So what we need to do is specify what users will have access to what applications from our published image. In this case, we are using traditional Active Directory access, which is proxied through the Citrix Cloud connector. Next, we will assign virtual machines from the virtual machine catalog into delivery groups. These can be used to assign different applications and experiences to different company departments and will allow Windows Virtual Desktop to be consumed alongside traditional on-premises resources.
But tell me, what happens if I need to publish something new?
Well, Dan, that's easy. If new applications are required, we can update the original template and then subsequently any machine catalogs that need to reflect this change.
Okay, great. Let's test this out. Now, as a user, I have multiple options for connecting. In this first example, by using nothing more than a simple web browser, which, as you can see, provides me with a rich, secure remote work experience that's aligned to modern, use-your-own-device initiatives. For enterprise customers and for those seeking the highest fidelity, Citrix also provides their own workspace app as a standalone experience. The point I'm trying to make is that it really doesn't matter how or from where you access the resources. That's the whole point. With this joint solution, you have a rich, consistent, agile experience that's as flexible and as mobile as you. So there you have it. The net effect of a long-standing partnership between Microsoft and Citrix realized in a simple, scalable, desktop-as-a-service experience. I'd like to extend my gratitude to both Toby and George for helping me bring this demo to life, and look forward to seeing how you will use this collaboration to modernize your own environment and reduce your data center spend. Until next time, stay safe and thanks for watching.